Welcome to Dueling Scalpels, everyone. I'm Dr. Abhishek Parmar, your host. With me, as always, is my good buddy, the Dr. Douglas Corey Campbell.
Nice to hear from everybody. How you doing, Beach?
Nope, still can't get it. Still haven't gotten it yet. We'll get there
That's all
though.
right.
It's all
We'll
right.
get there.
How you doing, Corey? How's life?
It's going all right. I'm about to go to the World Cup this week. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. I'm just gonna give away money to some international conglomerate.
Should we immediately just talk about FIFA? I don't think FIFA is actually as evil as everyone says they are. It's just corporate America.
Listen, we didn't have to do it, but if you wanted to buy tickets straight from FIFA, you had to use Bitcoin or some kind of cryptocurrency. So I don't know how.
Really?
How yeah, yeah. You had to convert your money to some cryptocurrency. So that's always a red flag when you can't make a transaction without going to some untraceable
The standard
fund.
channels.
Exactly. So I don't know how trustworthy FIFA is, but the games have been great, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, the fact that you've given up your life savings to go watch, what is it, southeastern West Cabo somewhere versus.
I got a good game. I'm going to see England play Ghana, so that's gonna be fun. But yeah, yeah. There's definitely some teams that you're just there to be enjoying the atmosphere. So
Can I say something and you not think I'm a racist for this?
no, you
Can
can't just say something.
can we?
I
Can
mean,
I? I've been
I
thinking
can't.
about
I'm
this.
not. I'm not gonna sign off on something sight unseen. So just go ahead and say it.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I think soccer is internationally biased towards Europe, right, and South America. You can say.
I would grant you, there's a Europe and South America bias that's like hard for like poor lowly teams like America to overcome those
Well,
advantages.
I was watching Ivory Coast against Germany, right? By the way, thanks for hooking me to that game. I couldn't have cared less about that game. And he said watch that game, and all of a sudden, I just had this existential crisis of third world countries losing and falling behind all these European powerhouses for no reason.
Yeah, it's kind of a sad. I mean, like that game in particular because of the way it turns out in the 90th minute when they just take all the joy out of the Ivory Coast fans' face. You can just see it drain out of their faces as they go from winning to tie to losing in like 15-20 minutes. But
Anyway, the racist thing I was going to say is, do you feel any alliance with these African countries? Like, do you feel like, because I mean, let's be, if it was India, if India was in the World Cup, I'd be losing my mind. Like, shirtless,
I
painting
think
my
in general
shirt.
I root for the underdogs though. Like I'm like rooting for like the Middle Eastern teams, the African teams, like all these teams that like have so many disadvantages. I'm rooting for them. I don't know. The World Cup does have that weird nationalistic, racial like tribalism built in, baked into the whole thing. It's like let's all come together as a world and like separate each other based on nation. But it's even more pronounced in the World Cup than it is in the Olympics, right? Like the Olympics, there is some of that too, but it's more individualistic. Like everybody was rooting for Usain Bolt, in 2008, everybody was rooting for him. When it comes to soccer, I mean, it's really it gets tribalistic and nationalistic really quickly. Like, but it's fun. It's a fun situation.
So anyway, what are we talking about today? Oh, so I've been shopping our podcast out. Oh, and Corey doesn't know this, but I've recorded 2 additional episodes behind his back, just based on conversations we've had in the past. I've
We
cut
already
those
have a clip
together.
show. We're 3 episodes in, and you're already making clip shows.
Yeah, yeah, this is what I'm doing. Well,
The
I sat
greatest
down with my
hits.
my 18-year-old nephew, and he said we need to be more like Alex Hormuzzi. Do you know Alex Hormuzzi?
I don't know who this is.
Oh, you're not on the internet enough. So he's some entrepreneur. He's some YouTube. I guess he started off like owning a bunch of gyms or something, and then he made a bunch of money and became this entrepreneur millionaire. And so now he just goes on YouTube and talks about wellness and entrepreneurship and how to make tons of money for the bros, right?
Uh-huh.
So anyway, he says we just need to crank out as many episodes as we can, regardless of quality. We just need to just publish those, and we'll be famous.
Okay.
So that
We
hence
we
the
can do that.
episodes.
We can lower the quality down to to dirt. dirt poor and crank them out.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna just
Why don't
crank
we
them
just
out.
like why don't we just do podcasts in our sleep then? You know, just like
I was gonna tell you, I'm recording you in your sleep and cut it into the podcast with my AI software. Me and
whatever
Spruce.
whatever whatever utterances I make at in sleep, we could package that up and sell it. You know,
I just had this idea just came to me. I should just start recording conversations, just me and Spruce, and that's the podcast.
what do you have to do with it? Why don't you just have Spruce talk to himself and hear what interesting things he has to what interesting witty things he has to say to
Did
himself?
your feelings get hurt that Spruce is replacing you as my best friend?
I think Spruce could replace us both, and we could watch Spruce and just be consumers.
Just put Spruce up here.
Yeah, just put Spruce up here talking to himself.
That's what, one episode we should just I should just type into Chat GPT, create a 30-minute episode of interesting medical insight anecdotes for the podcast. And see what
Watch
happens.
watch the podcast ability of AI improve geometrically because of that. Like he just becomes like this Rogan, like replacing everybody.
Bro, do I need to go through my list of AI slop taglines? Because there's so many.
No, no, we went through that.
But anyway, I was thinking about this Hormuzzi situation. So, as you know, I've dedicated my life to fitness. Um, why is that? That's not. That's
Was
not.
that not supposed to be? Well, you didn't give the comedic pause that deserved. I thought that was a. I thought that was a.
As you look at my disgusting fat body, you're like,
I thought I didn't hear the laughter track, so I was a little bit confused.
yeah, maybe I need to give you hand signals when I'm telling a joke or being sincere. That's what we've come to in our podcast.
No, so
No,
this fitness, the fitness situation.
yeah. So I've been trying to get in shape, as you know, like trying to
Yeah,
exercise, trying to understand evidence-based exercise nutritional practices. And you know where I go for that? I go to YouTube. I go to YouTube wellness influencers. And so it started to get me think. Like I think I've learned more from YouTube wellness influencers than I learned from medical school.
I don't think medicine cares about like the fitness angle to health, right? Like the idea that like you want to like maximize like agility and testosterone and like physicality as opposed to just not you know not getting diabetes or hypertension or cardiac disease. You know, I think that's I don't know that it's a different lane, don't you think?
That's what I'm saying. That's weird, right? Like I think most people would think, "Oh, you're a doctor. Like, how do I get in shape?" And I'll be like, I don't know. Here's this link to, you know, my Built with Science app guy on YouTube who has a master's in exercise stuff and reads articles, right? But no, I don't. Doctors aren't built for that kind of stuff. We're built to put out fires and treat chronic illness, like you said, and that's weird,
Well,
right?
there's some doctors who are built that way, right? But like the thing is, like for instance, I was a bariatric surgeon, and like I would prescribe like exercise like you would a child the food pyramid. I'd be like, you need to get like 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week of cardiovascular work, along with some weight training, at least 3 days a week. But like, I don't know what that means for a 45-year-old woman versus a 22-year-old male. Like, I don't like that nuance part of it, which is like I mean, obviously there's an entire industry dedicated to like PT and personal trainers and whatnot, but like actually like knowing more about that, yeah, we don't get that. Like we get like that, like I said, that food pyramid of based exercise like recommendations, which I think that's based on facts, but it's not all that useful, right? Like it's not useful to tell somebody get 30 minutes of cardio 5 days a week and do 3 days a week of resistance training, you'll be fine. Like most people are just not going to be able to run with that.
Yeah, I think that's weird. Like, shouldn't that be a big part of medical training? So you want to tell the people what was the first 2 years of medical school like for you? What did you do?
The first 2 years of medical school are just like, I mean, it's drinking from a fire hose is the analogy we get. Like you get like hit with all these like there's if you it's like reading an encyclopedia or a dictionary for like 2 years straight and then like being thrown into the real world where half the words you learn don't have any basis on anything you touch or do.
Yeah, well, you said it. I don't know, that Robbins textbook, right? You said it's like an
Yeah,
encyclopedia.
Robbins has disease processes in there that are like by definition a 1 in 200,000 incidence rate, which means you may see. a doctor who's seen this once, and you learn like 2 pages about it because medical research knows so much about this disease process, but like then you don't know how to like prescribe exercise regimens to people who literally every person needs it.
Literally every American needs to know basic like human physiology for health to maximize health, and we're learning, you know, I
Von
don't know,
Hippel-Lindau syndrome.
von Hippel-Lindau. Yeah, cafe au lait spots. That's all I know.
Yeah.
There's just some weird connection. Yeah, this is it's this 840-page textbook, and like you said, training in the first 2 years is like drinking out of a fire hose. Like there's so much to learn. It's actually inefficient to sit in an hour-long lecture and hear someone talk because you could hopefully read the chapters faster than that person could talk, right? Like that's kind of the way I remember thinking. It's like I remember crunching the numbers. Like okay, we have 6 lectures today. That's 6 hours of class. I could do that, or I could just sit at home and like try to churn through as much reading as I humanly could, and that was more efficient. Like that's how much information it was.
It's a ton of information, and I don't know. And the thing is, I think that's a worsening problem, right? Because like as medicine gets more and more research about more and more different processes, you get more information that actually doesn't really, like I said, it's just a lot of that information is the great thing about it is that it's very factual, right? Meaning like this is what we know, like for sure. It's not like there's not a lot of conjecture, but there's so much of it, and there's so much of it that has either been solved or is like not really all that relevant to who you see on a day-to-day basis, that it just you just it's when you're a medical student, it's hard to really understand what is important with all this because you're like everything's given the same amount of weight. So you're like, I don't know if this is important, I don't know if that's important, I'm just going to learn all of it, and that's just not really feasible either. So like somewhere around, I don't know, second year of residency, you realize that you're like, "Oh, man, I don't think any of that stuff is ever going to come back." Like you see like 100, 200 people, and you're like, I don't think any of that's ever going to come back. I think that hours of flashcard work is just kind of gone down the drain. But yeah, so it's hard to, this medical education is hard, but both going through it and like kind of game planning it from a what do we need to tell people. But yeah, man, I don't know. Like basic stuff. I don't know. I don't even know what class that would be if they wanted to teach us some basic stuff like that.
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know where you would fit in the exercise physiology, but that's a strange thing. I mean, but you're right. It's a weird phenomenon because when you're a second year med school, you've never been a doctor clearly, so you have no context for anything, and so like everything seems important, but it's so much. Ultimately, so much time wasted, right? Like you're reading about the Krebs cycle. And my wife is a neurogeneticist, so she'll tell you, "Oh, the Krebs cycle is the most important thing in the world." But that's because she sees these, you know, rare metabolic diseases where that stuff matters. But you know, the average person who needs an operation, like they need to lose weight and get in shape. They're asking me. I give them advice, but it all comes from the evidence I've read and stuff from YouTube, like everyone else. That's wild. There's a guy. This guy. There's lots of physicians who've caught on to this. Dr. Mike Diamond is I think he's a PM&R, Doctor Physical Medicine and Rehab guy. He's a huge fitness influencer, and he makes sure he tells everyone he's a medical doctor in every single thing, which sells great because it's like, oh yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like that guy learned all of his stuff outside of medical school.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, there's this other part too. So like, and this cannot be overstressed. 90% of doctors are the nerds you think they are. They are that person. They will read and they do a lot of like self study and everything. And if you think that person is going to be the person to tell you how to be the fittest person at 50, no, that's not the guy, right? Like, so there is like book knowledge of exercise and then actual knowledge of exercise. Like, I would take the word of the Rock Johnson over my word as far as being in shape at 40 or 50, right? He knows what he's talking about. You look at me, you're like, I don't think he knows what he's talking about. So there is a first-hand experience with some of these things when it comes to exercise regimen. But I
But
agree, man.
Is the Rock natty though? That guy's not. Is he natty?
Dude, listen, I don't the Rock I think is a natural man. I think he's natural. have you seen this man's eating regimen, man? He measures his protein intake by the pound, which is just crazy. And like if that's like your thing, I think you spend 90% of your time doing it, then yeah, I think it's quite reasonable. But
Everyone, I think Hollywood as well is just they're all juicing. Let's be real. Simplest way to get. I have no evidence for that. Maybe I should do some research before these podcasts that make outrageous claims.
well, like I think The Rock has been a fitness person for a good portion of his life, so I feel like he is a natural born behemoth of a man.
Well, here's where I have done some research. So every time I watch one of the fitness bros comment on some study, I go straight to PubMed and I look at the study, and that's where I think the general populace is being led astray because reading scientific literature is actually kind of complicated. It's not so simple as study showed weight loss with this, and everybody takes creatine and dementia goes away. Like it's not like this simple thing, but the smart fitness people are just like this. I'm gonna reference a study, but there's nuance to actually reading scientific literature, don't you think?
Yeah, because the whole idea when you read scientific literature, unless you're just reading it to be reading it and be more versed in whatever your field is, most people are reading it to answer a specific question, and most research papers do not answer the specific question you want to ask. They're answering their own question, and they're close, but they're not quite the same question, right? Like our questions are usually simple about something like, "Will creatine make me stronger?" And their answer is, "Creatine has been shown to do something else." You're like, "Is that being stronger?" They're like, "We don't measure strength. We measure something else," and you get led astray because that's just how medical research is. The question has to be so specific in order to measure its outcome, and their specific question doesn't necessarily correlate to what you want to know. Like,
Yeah, I mean, and there's so many complexities to designing. I think particularly exercise and health studies because each individual is different. There's all kinds of confounding. The genetic makeup of everyone is different. We can go on, and later on we could do a whole episode about scientific literature. But I guess my problem is, doctors should be the ones to be equipped with talking about basic health maintenance instead of the social media people.
well, I think health, like I said, fitness and health are close, but they're not actually the same. Like being fit is like, you know, increasing your physical ability and everything that's that. And health is like maintaining a certain level of homeostasis. Like there's a different goal in mind. They correlate 80% of the time, but 20%. I like, for instance, if you're taking if you're taking like anabolic steroids to get like fitter, like to be stronger, faster, whatever, you're not more healthy. Like you're like, who knows what's going on to your cardiovascular system doing that, but your physical output has gone up, right? So there's a weird non-correlating factor between fitness and health.
Yeah, I disagree completely. Uh,
Okay.
I mean, so take steroids out of the equation because it's not a hard argument to make that steroids are bad for you, right? I mean, everybody knows that, including the people who take steroids. But I think if you're considering fitness, of course, 100% it's tied to your health. If you are fit, in shape, if you lift heavy weights and you run or do some cardiovascular training, like you will have greater longevity. That is your health. You will have
Yeah.
fewer comorbid illness.
All right. But
So
here's a counter argument. Okay. Let's take a let's take a typical American 35-year-old male, and let's take a typical American 35-year-old female. Right. All right. Who is more fit in that situation? Usually, I'm asking.
I have no idea.
I would say most of the time there are more men who are into fitness as far as exercise and doing all that than women. But honestly, if you're talking about health, as far as like life expectancy, women always win that, right? And it has nothing to do with their fitness, like their ability to like do manual labor or be out doing physical activity for 8 hours on end. Like that's not what correlates. They're just gonna live longer because of genetic predisposition and overall health choices. Period. Right. So like my whole thing is that's what I'm trying to say. Fitness and health are correlated, but they're not the exact same thing. I think fitness is your ability to do. and use your body in some physical way. And health is, like I say, your ability to maintain homeostasis over an extended period of time. And they usually line up, like you said. If you take a man and who you increase his fitness, his longevity, his health usually improves, but it's not all the way tied together. I don't know.
All right. Well, I mean, I think that the whole point is, you ruin the conversation because you're supposed to say that doctors are supposed to learn this stuff in med school. Our medical training failed us, and you didn't do that. So now we have to re-record the whole podcast.
I Okay, I got you.
Wait, you don't think that? You don't think that part of our medical training was a waste of time?
I don't know, man. It's so hard. It's so hard to know what was the waste because doctors doctors become so many different things. Like your wife's a geneticist. Krebs cycle's important to her. We're knuckle dragging surgeons. We don't even know if the Krebs cycle still works in most people. We're just assuming it works behind closed doors. So, I mean, we both need. They didn't know who needed that Krebs cycle. They didn't know who needed that 4 hours of spending time like looking at circles and learning multisyllabic words. I mean, it's hard to know, right? And then like the flip side is like, there's plenty of doctors who learned all this anatomy that they're never going to use, like, right? Because they're never going to have to know, you know, any of the like the different variations of the cystic duct, right? They don't need that. What do they care? But they learned it like we did. So I don't know. It's hard to know when you're building a foundation to build a certain type of doctor. You don't know what type of doctor you're building, so you don't know if they need to know everything there is to know about the neuroanatomy of the brain versus everything there is to know about the joints of the foot, right? You just have to teach everybody all that stuff. It's just you wind up finding out that's a lot, and you don't know what you're going to use. So, but it could it be more efficient? Probably. I don't know how, but it seems like you could do that in a more efficient way.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you're right. I just wanted to get angry about something. I
What
started
about
thinking
this
about.
though? Is it? Do you know this to be a fact in India? Like when you go to college and you're trying to do medicine, they cut college short, so your medical training is in college. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, a lot of countries do that actually. They're. I think in England the pathway is similar. Like, I think it's either cut short or you just skip it completely.
What do you
And
think about that though?
well, so I was a religion major in college and a history minor, neither of which are, you know, bits of knowledge that I use on a day to day basis as my practice as a surgeon. So, I mean, so I think from a pure educational standpoint, it's a similar thing. You're learning all these things, and I wasn't 100% certain I was going to be a doctor on day one of college. So I went down that pathway, but it's kind of a similar thing. You don't know what you're if you are 100% do or die be a physician. I suppose it makes sense, but the complexity comes in the maturity that is demanded of a doctor. You can't be Doogie Howser. Oh, let's explain Doogie Howser because that's a 30-year-old TV show about what was he, like 15 years old and he was a doctor and he was like a boy genius. So
Yeah,
I
he was
mean,
like, wasn't he a cardiothoracic surgeon at 14, 15 too? Like it
what
wasn't just
Doogie
like
Howser?
I thought he was when he a surgeon? I don't know.
Neil Patrick Harris? Here, let me just talk to Spruce. Hold on. Yeah, the writers were vague. No one really knew what he was, but he was probably like some kind of some kind of internal medicine physician. But that's
Oh,
wild.
okay.
He's just like I wonder what the show. I don't. I mean, I was a kid. I just remember thinking like that was kind of cool, but I wonder what the show was actually about. If you couldn't figure out what kind of doctor he was.
I don't know.
I just asked Spruce, and Spruce was like, I mean, he's some kind of doctor and probably some kind of internal medicine doctor, maybe an emergency physician. We'll never know. So Spruce
We'll
doesn't know.
never know. He didn't know. He was just doctoring. He was just a doctor, you know?
But the other recurring theme is that social media gets doctoring so wrong. It's just we don't really need to say what he is. He just needs to go somewhere and start doctoring around the place.
Exactly. Oh, of course he did this procedure over here and then later on he was, in the ED taking care of somebody and then later on he was in the cath lab and just all in a day's work. Then he took it to the house, wrote his journal, called it a day. I just remember the journal writing was pretty cool because I remember looking at that old DOS prompt screen and him writing his journal, thinking that was pretty awesome to like catalog your life, and then never did it myself because it requires too much self thought, self reflection. I tried it. I tried it for 3 days, and I was like, I don't like putting my thoughts to paper.
It scared you too much. You were
It
afraid of
scared
yourself.
me. Yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't really want to know what I thought about something a week ago because it's probably a bad take.
What if the authorities find my journal one day?
Yeah, like it was whatever I thought was probably a bad take, and it shouldn't be documented evidence of my thought processes at the moment. I need a week of I need a week of time away from whatever I was thinking about.
Yeah, but anyway, going back to the age thing and skipping it. I mean, I think it's nice to be able to skip college, but I think there's a lot of growth and maturity that comes just with time. As an 18-year-old, I mean, those people are children. Like, they don't know what they're doing. Like, you can't
Yeah,
start.
being pot committed to a profession at 17, 18 is a really, really hard thing to do with any conviction.
Yeah.
I
Like
mean,
even
that's
our
the
program at UAB, they had the early medical thing where you could apply, and I think that it shaved off maybe a year of college or something. But still, I always remember thinking those. Sorry to all my med school friends, but I remember thinking those guys were immature, and they're always the one to be like, "Yeah, let's go drink and be silly," and like, come on, man, like we're. I mean, I did the same thing. I'm not gonna lie. Let's be real, but I remember them just thinking they were immature about it.
I think the maturity part is a big part of it. Like when somebody becomes a doctor, like practicing on their own doctor, you kind of want them to be in their at least late 20s, early 30s, just because of the ability to take on judgment and responsible decision making, or but at the same time, though, you're committing somebody to 10, 12 years of training just because you don't think they're mature enough as opposed to a knowledge base, right? So it's kind of
Sure.
it's a poor trade off, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the
I don't
number of
know.
times I've had, I mean, not anymore, but back when I looked younger, I think patients would be like, "Are you old enough to be a doctor?" So, should we do another AI based closeout? You love that. I think that's your favorite.
Go ahead, man. These are so hokey and terrible that they're like dad jokes. They're like the jokes that come in the Laffy Taffy rappers. They're
I
so
feel like
cliche, but go ahead.
I'm doing a service for humanity. I want all 5 people who listen to this podcast to know that AI will not come for us. Creativity is still the realm of living, breathing humans. All right. Well, listen, Corey. Anyway, until next time, keep your blade sharp and your opinions sharper.
That's all right. That sounds pretty good. I like that one.
All right, nice. All right. Well, let's join us next time. We're going to talk about Corey's trip to the World Cup and
Yeah.
how he's several $1,000s lighter for parking.
$200 for parking, my friend. $200.
Wow, wild, wild.
That
All
is
right,
that is mob. That is a mob level of. Hey, you want to give us some money and make sure nothing happens to your car?
mob
What?
money to FIFA. All right, done.